Welcome to the Trick Shift Garage. Today we are going to be working on CV joints. This CV joint, the rubber boot, busted open and has literally slung grease everywhere. Alright, so me and Bob have been looking through our YouTube analytics and we've noticed you guys have been watching but not subscribing. So can you please do us a huge favor, huge favor, and just hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel out. It helps us try to, bring more content for you guys. So hit that subscribe button. Thank you. All right, step one, you want to remove that cotter pin right there. Just grab a pair of pliers and straighten up the pin. Once you got the pin straight, just pull it straight on through. Let's see. Yeah, and it was a little bit tough, but eventually it comes out. There it goes. All right, so that's done. All right, the next step is going to be that spindle right there. That's a size 32 millimeter. And I got my big old air gun today. So just put it on there and it zips right off. That wasn't too bad. I thought it would be harder, but it was actually pretty easy. Alright, the next step is to pull off this clip that holds the brake line in place. The easiest way I found was to take the flathead screwdriver and just pry up a little bit on the ends, and then use it to hit that side, and then it pops off. And that comes out. Alright, so the next step is to grab your 21 millimeter. And I use my air gun again. We're going to loosen up these two bolts that holds the strut on. It took a while because the air pressure wasn't building as much as I wanted it to. And if you don't have an air gun, a breaker bar would be fine, or even an electric impact wrench, that'd be fine too. Whatever you got at your disposal. Alright, once you got them loosened up, you can just tap them on out. But I decided to leave one in for now, so that way it would stay in place, so I can work off the CV joint. As you can see, we're breaking it loose, and now I'm going to pull the bolt out, holding it, and then slowly pulling back. Just be careful when you pull it out. You don't want to damage any bushings or seals that hold the grease in. Alright, so now that we're inside, we have two bolts right here that we need to loosen and remove. That is what holds the actual axle in place and keeps it from sliding in and out. These two bolts can be difficult to reach. If you have a long extension, preferably a 3/8 inch extension. The one I had was like 2.5 feet long, so I was able to reach it all the way from the outside of the car. But use whatever you can at your disposal. It's going to be a 13 millimeter there, these bolts are. Just loosen them up and take them right on out. Oh yeah, and that one got stuck right there. I just had to knock it with the screwdriver for it to fall through. And this one on the bottom can be difficult if you have a long extension like I did. I kind of had to weave in through between the wheel hub and the brakes and everything, but just try to get a good straight shot at it. That way it just makes it easier instead of trying to stick a wrench up there underneath the car. And I dropped that one too. Alright, so once you have that out of the way, you can just simply pull the axle out, and there was quite a bit of transmission fluid that leaked out, as you saw. And here I am pulling it out, done with it. That's the point that it failed and slung grease all in the inside of the wheel well and on the engine, as you can see. This is the original one that came with the car. Alright, so the next step is to spray the bracket there that's going to hold the axle in place, and I'll just use some brake cleaner and some rags and just wipe it down as best I can. And then this is the entrance to the actual transmission. I just wiped it up some. I didn't spray much around there. Didn't really want to get brake fluid inside the transmission, so I just kind of wiped it by hand. Made sure everything was in place. Okay, so now here we go. And let me tell you, if you have a buddy around, like I had Bob around to help me out in this part, it can be very beneficial because that axle is not light. Okay, especially when you're trying to thread it through the bracket and then actually insert it inside the transmission. It definitely helps to have a friend or a buddy nearby. Alright, so here I am, making sure that little metal washer at the end where my hand is properly seated. That right there, you have to make sure that's in the right spot because that's what keeps the oil seal to stay in place. And then boom, there it goes. Now it's in place. Alright, so mind that notch that's on the bracket there. It needs to be on the top side. I don't know if it really matters, but I just had to go back and take look at the pictures that I took before to make sure it was on the top. So just put the notch back where it was. I don't think it matters, but just better be safe than sorry. Okay, so put the bolts in, tighten it down. This is going to be torqued down to 18 foot-pounds. It's not much. Since I used an extension that was like almost 3 feet long, I actually I think I put 20 pounds of torque on it, just because those extensions actually twist a bit when you tighten, so you want to add a little bit back. But 18 if you're just gonna be right next to it. Okay, so the axle's in place. Now we're putting it back into the wheel bearing assembly and the whole wheel hub assembly. It takes a little bit of finagling, but eventually it goes in. Just make sure that you do not damage the teeth on the spindle end of the axle going into the wheel bearing hub. As you can see, it's a little bit of a struggle, but eventually it pops into place. Okay, there it goes. And grab a bolt and slide it on in. And some blue thread lock. For the other one, same thing. I'm just finger tightening in there now just to put it in place. Now once I got those in, then I'm going to go ahead and, as you can see, torque them down. Again, they're 21 millimeter size on both sides, so just keep that in mind when you're going back to tighten them. So here I'm just kind of using the torque wrench to just get it tight at least, and then once I have it snug a bit, then I would go back and then torque it down to the correct spec. Yep, just a couple rotations and it clicks in. Get a couple test clicks and you're good to go. And then for the bottom one, same thing. Take your time with it, go nice and easy. Listen out for the click. You'll feel the click too. Or beep if you got an electric one. I do want to get one of those. Alright, so now we're putting on that brake line clip again, just to keep the brake line where it's supposed to be. Couple taps with the ball peen and there it goes. Okay, spindle time. So I put a little bit of thread lock on that too, because why not? Better be safe than sorry. And as you can see, I did it by hand only to, as I tightened it, I was feeling for any kind of irregularities, I guess. Like, it should be able to turn smoothly when you put the spindle nut on. You shouldn't feel any kind of binding or grinding. It should be relatively easy. And once you got it in as tight as you can, then you go back again, 32 millimeter, and this is going to be torqued down to 92 foot-pounds. Pretty straightforward. Okay. So the axles that I got came with that lock washer. I guess that's what it's called. It's not necessary. What is necessary is the cotter pin. You must have the cotter pin in place. And then just put it in, and you can just bend it back like so. You just want to make sure the cotter pin doesn't escape at all, ever, like that. And that was good. That was good to go. And another quick spray of some brake clean all around, and this side is pretty much done. Okay, the next step is to use Nissan NS2 CVT fluid. I couldn't find that, so I grabbed AMSOIL 100% synthetic fluid. It works even better than the stock factory fluid, so by all means, why not? Why not get better fluid? And I lost fluid when I was pulling out the axles, and as you can see here, it's kind of fuzzy, but there's the line right there. You want to make sure you get between the two notches. I took about half of a quart I had to use for it. But other than that, that's it as far as this job. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. See you on the next one.